my God, when I know someone.
Linda Thompson, Elvis Presley's former flame, has finally broken her silence about the King's final concert in 1977, opening up about the shocking moment that she witnessed firsthand. So, what did Linda witness during that last show, and how has it impacted her own personal memories of the King? Join us to explore these details. When the lights faded. In 1973, spectators around the globe eagerly anticipated Elvis Presley's appearance at his Aloha from Hawaii concert. It was more than just a performance. It was a momentous event that was broadcast live across the world via satellite. Elvis exuded confidence as he stood on stage in his impressive white jumpsuit, which gleamed brightly under the lights. His flawless hair and self-assured smile gave off an air of authority, and his every gesture seemed capable of influencing the entire planet. The music emanated from him with strength, each note serving as a testament to the enduring power of the King. Many people will always remember him as the ultimate champion, thriving and lively at his peak. However, the reality that unfolded was much darker than the initial image. Despite the praise and adulation, the future held a gradual decline for the once powerful performer, burdened by fatigue and suffering. Between 1974 and 1976, he faced an overwhelming amount of pressure. In just 3 years, he performed nearly 400 concerts. The constant traveling and never-ending performances took a toll on him, both physically and mentally. In order to cope, he relied on prescription medications that were supposed to help him manage the pain and keep him going. However, instead of providing relief, the pills started to have a negative impact on his health. His once energetic and lively demeanor began to fade as he started to put on weight and lose the glow in his face. His eyes, which used to sparkle with life, now appeared distant and disconnected, as if he was already mentally somewhere else. The public became aware of the reality when the book Elvis, What Happened? Was published, revealing his battles with prescription medication and stories he wished to keep private. He attempted to prevent its publication by offering money, but it was unsuccessful as his health was already deteriorating. Various health issues such as glaucoma, high blood pressure, liver damage, and an enlarged colon, worsened by years of medication abuse, were gradually sapping his vitality. The man who had once captivated the world with his endless vitality was now struggling with unseen struggles. The most intense limelight couldn't disguise the indications of his weariness. He was exhausted, and the platform that used to bring him comfort now felt like an overwhelming weight. In 1977, the world was stunned by his sudden passing. The announcement of his death caused a flurry of speculation and inquiries.
He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing. His road manager tried to revive him. He failed. A hospital tried to revive him. It failed.
According to Memphis medical examiner Jerry Francisco, Elvis's cause of death was attributed to cardiac arrest, with no medications involved. However, rumors circulated about a different narrative, one involving ongoing health issues and a history of prescriptions. Later analysis from the laboratory indicated a more intricate situation. A total of 14 various medications were discovered in his body, with 10 of them present in substantial quantities. Some hypothesized that he might have experienced an allergic response to codeine, a substance he had a mild allergy to in the past. On the other hand, forensic expert Cyril Weck deduced that a lethal combination of depressants led to his unintentional demise. Dr. Michael Baden, an additional specialist, thought that the situation was complex. For years, Elvis had been dealing with an enlarged heart, and the medications worsened the issue. According to him, it was a decision that could never be definitively resolved with a straightforward solution. Even those responsible for looking after him were under close examination. Francisco declared a cause of death prematurely, attributing it to a heart condition that can only be determined in a living individual. He dismissed the possibility of medications playing a role before the toxicology report was released. This led some to suspect a concealment of the truth. Elvis's doctor, George C. Nicopolis, came under scrutiny for his excessive prescriptions of sedatives, amphetamines, and narcotics in Elvis's name. Despite being acquitted of criminal charges in 1981, he faced consequences for his actions as his medical license was later suspended and ultimately revoked. In 1994, The autopsy report for Elvis Presley was revisited by renowned coroner Joseph Davis, who concluded that there was no evidence of medication involvement in his death, attributing it instead to a sudden heart attack. However, disagreement arose among members of the pathology team, believed it was premature to make conclusive statements without the full lab results. Eric Muirhead, one of the reviewers, was surprised by Francisco's premature revelation. He recognized that the true situation was not as straightforward. The thorough examination of Elvis's remains indicated long-standing health issues such as diabetes, glaucoma, and severe digestive problems. The physicians also observed unmistakable evidence of prolonged substance abuse taking a toll on his body. His medical files disclosed multiple admissions for detoxification and methadone therapy. In the end, it turned out that the king had been silently struggling with a prolonged battle. His musical talent, charming smile, and captivating stage persona had camouflaged this fact from the public. However, beneath the glamour and the brightness, his physical health was deteriorating. The striking image of the man in the bright white jumpsuit still lingers in the minds of his admirers. However, those familiar with the struggles he endured in his final years view his story with a sense of mixed emotions. But what was Linda's true relationship with the king of rock and roll? Let's dive into it. When Linda walked beside the king. Linda Thompson's life took a significant turn on July 6, 1972, when she entered an unfamiliar world on a pleasant summer evening. At the age of 22, brimming with vitality and potential, she experienced a private film showing at the Memphian Theater in Memphis. Elvis Presley, a globally recognized figure yet shrouded in mystery to many, personally arranged and presided over the event. That night was sticky with southern humidity, enveloping everything in its warmth. When she entered the theater, she laid eyes on him for the very first time. Elvis was clad in a black cape adorned with a tall collar and lined with a rich red satin. The scene was striking and grandiose, but somehow it suited him to perfection. His presence had a pull to it, as if the spotlight was always on him, even in the shadows. From that evening, they embarked on a romantic journey that endured for over 4 years. Although Elvis was still in the process of finalizing his divorce from Priscilla, he felt an instant connection with Linda. They quickly connected over their mutual Memphis origins, their belief in a higher being, their passion for gospel music, and their strong commitment to their families. Within a few months, Linda made the decision to move into Graceland, fully immersing herself in a lifestyle that was anything but typical. Living with Elvis was filled with excitement. Although he was beloved for his charm, humor, and faithfulness, his life was always busy, with never-ending requests and the weight of being a famous figure. Regardless, they found time to enjoy everyday activities like singing gospel songs, laughing together, and forming a strong connection that seemed indestructible. However, over time, signs of strain started to appear. By 1975, Elvis started dating Mindy Miller, which indicated a change in his relationship with Linda, who had always been loyal to him. Additionally, Elvis's health declined, leading to self-neglect. The once charismatic man now seemed burdened by weariness and suffering. His behavior became risky, and his mood swings became unpredictable. Linda had strong feelings for him, yet being in love with him also meant seeing him spiral into self-destruction. Despite her efforts, she couldn't alleviate the agony. The distress of observing her beloved deteriorate in front of her had a negative impact on her. He was still the person she cherished, but he was also transforming into someone beyond her grasp. In the winter of 1976, Linda made a difficult choice to leave. It was not out of spite or resentment, but out of necessity for self-preservation. She realized she had to prioritize her emotional and mental well-being before being consumed by negativity. Departing meant saying goodbye to her partner, but staying meant losing her own sense of identity. Despite their split, they did not harbor any resentful feelings towards each. His last held concert, the Elvis in Concert, stay with us to find out. The show that shouldn't have happened. During Elvis Presley's tumultuous last year, there was a controversial decision that would create disagreement for years to come. This choice, not related to his music or performances, came from his longtime manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Parker, who had led Elvis to fame and burnout, advocated for another televised concert special. This marks the third event of its type, meant to highlight the king's significance in the world. Initially, it was meant to be a joyful occasion, a way to honor a living legend. However, those who were closest to him knew the reality behind the scenes. This was not the same vibrant Elvis that the world idolized. The energetic and charismatic performer had been eroded by years of constant touring, declining health, and personal hardships. He was exhausted, physically weak, and emotionally depleted. Many of his admirers felt uneasy about subjecting him to the pressure of another national broadcast. However, the performance proceeded as planned. The vehicle that had transported Elvis for many years was designed to keep going, even when he was in need of a break. During June of 1977, cameras were prepared to record 2 of his live shows, one in Omaha, Nebraska, and the other in Rapid City, South Dakota. This footage was eventually used for the CBS program Elvis in Concert. During those evenings, Elvis provided the audience with all he had to offer. He performed timeless songs that had accompanied him throughout his career, showcasing a voice that could still reach moments of power and elegance despite his physical limitations. While glimpses of his former charisma and humor occasionally shone through, they were often overshadowed by signs of weariness and fatigue. One particular moment from the performance stood out. While "Are You Lonesome Tonight" was being sung, the camera shifted away right before the spoken part of the song. Instead, a fan was featured talking about her unwavering love for seeing Elvis perform live. The music resumed after the spoken segment was completed. Some speculated that this was to prevent showing Elvis struggling with the lyrics, indicating his delicate state. Others argued that it was part of his playful stage presence, a trait he had exhibited in previous years by making jokes and altering lyrics during shows. In reality, Elvis had jokingly teased this song on numerous occasions, including in his 1968 comeback special and other live performances that were later released. This particular program had a significance unlike any others that came before. It was followed by the untimely passing of Elvis less than 2 months later. When the broadcast of Elvis in Concert finally happened on October 3, 1977, the world was already reeling from the shock of his sudden passing. What was supposed to be a jovial comeback on television ended up being something entirely different, an unintended goodbye. The audience witnessed a beloved figure fighting through discomfort on stage, singing despite the obvious agony, his once powerful demeanor weakened by sickness. And amidst those difficult moments, there were still glimpses of the familiar personality they cherished, which only made it more devastating to witness. The program concluded with remarks from Elvis's father, Vernon Presley. The initial statement was captured during the June tour when Elvis was still alive. The following message was recorded in September, just a few weeks after his death, where Vernon expressed gratitude to fans for their overwhelming support and sympathies. Both statements were accompanied by scenes of Graceland, highlighting familiar views of the residents Elvis cherished. Afterward, there was much controversy surrounding the Elvis in Concert documentary. The Presley family made the decision to keep the film from being sold, as they felt it portrayed him in a negative light. They preferred that people remember Elvis as the dynamic and captivating artist who once captivated audiences with his energy, rather than the tired and weakened figure shown in his last appearances. While they acknowledged that there were some memorable moments in the special, they believed that it didn't capture his true essence. Some people close to Elvis were deeply affected by his public image. Jerry Schilling and others were upset that the cameras kept rolling despite Elvis's poor health.
The guy that gives me my scarf, some water, and does a little bit of everything. He's my friend, Charlie Hodge.
They felt it was more about preserving his dignity and well-being than just his reputation. Showing him in a vulnerable state was seen as a betrayal of the love they had for him. Instead of being on stage, he needed rest and proper care during that time. However, the program was broadcasted. Viewers watched. The portrayal of Elvis during his last months was recorded in history. Those who had witnessed his peak were faced with a sobering realization of how time and challenges had impacted him. Some viewers were experiencing his performance for the first time, associating their impression of the king with his decline. The reason for the release was not solely based on TV schedules or business agreements. It represented the relentless momentum of an industry that carried on despite the man at the helm facing obstacles. Decisions made in corporate meetings held more weight than the private appeals from loved ones. Ultimately, it highlighted the resilience of a man who continued to give his all, even in the face of physical decline. Elvis in Concert is a touching chapter in history, blending elements of a live performance, a farewell, and a cautionary tale about the consequences of never stepping out of the limelight. Those viewing it today perceive more than just a vocalist performing. They witness a person, weathered but resilient, continuing to sing and connect with fans. So what did Linda see in this last performance from the love of her life? Stay tuned. Through her eyes. She was frozen in place, her eyes fixated on the TV screen when the familiar face popped up. Everything seemed to fall silent around her, with the background noise disappearing. The light from the television illuminated the room, but her attention was solely on him. The sight before her was not just shocking, but also deeply unsettling. The person on the television bore the familiar name that used to bring her solace, a name she used to utter softly in the stillness of the night. However, the man appeared to have changed drastically. His facial features were more prominent, his pace had slowed down, and he seemed burdened by fatigue. The glint in his eyes, which used to be lively and bright, had now faded, overshadowed by the heaviness of fatigue and suffering. Linda Thompson spent 4 intimate and challenging years with him, during which she became familiar with every aspect of his personality. However, as she watched him perform under the bright stage lights, she struggled to recognize the man she once knew so well. Although his voice retained its depth and richness, it appeared to be struggling against an unknown force. Despite his continued ability to captivate the audience with his presence, she could sense that there was something fundamentally amiss just by observing him. Her heart constricted, and tears welled up in her eyes. Seeing him in this state was nearly too much to handle. It wasn't just an act, it was an exposure of the reality she had been avoiding. Experiencing someone you care about drifting away right in front of you brings a unique type of pain. This was the moment that Linda had been dreading.
Let me get your mind, son. You gotta hold the microphone, put the scarf on, hold the ring, show me the right keys. Got it?
She had faced the toughest choice in her life just 8 months ago. It wasn't that she had fallen out of love with him, but rather that she had to safeguard herself from the tumult encircling him. The sleepless nights, the tension, the harmful habits were all overwhelming. Despite walking away, she still clung to memories of the man she once knew, the one with the infectious smile, the contagious laughter that could brighten any space, the man whose charisma could captivate a crowd. However, at that moment in her living room, she was observing him in a completely new light. This wasn't simply the person she had walked away from, it was as if a distorted version of him was present. The deterioration she had suspected but never truly experienced was now evident. It was visible in his facial expressions, in his sluggish actions, in how he appeared to be struggling through each musical note. It was not a secret, not something discreetly discussed in private or kept hidden from view. It was all out in the open, on full display for the world to witness on television. Countless unknown individuals could observe the same scenes, but none could truly grasp the depth of her emotions. They were unaware of the unique sound of his laughter late at night, or how his eyes would change when at ease. The intimate moments that revealed the true nature of the man were only known to her. This wasn't just a regular show for Linda, it was a wake-up call. A realization that the man she once adored was slowly slipping away. Though he was physically present and still singing to the audience, his essence was dimming with each passing moment. She felt the urge to avert her gaze. She wished to keep memories of him as she had always known him, in moments of joy, in bursts of vigor, in the embrace of his affection. Nevertheless, she found herself unable to change the channel. Despite the emotional toll, she remained glued to the screen, each second feeling like a painful reminder of loss. That evening, she witnessed more than just a man performing on a stage. She witnessed the conclusion of something lovely, something she had once been involved in. She witnessed the repercussions of fame, the burden of aging, and the constant pressure of a world that never allows its most successful individuals to relax. When the music fought back, something shifted in a way no one could have predicted. It was soft, almost hidden, yet so deeply moving that it felt like the air itself had changed. Just when it seemed as though the light inside him had grown faint, a spark returned. It didn't come with loud cheers or grand gestures. It arrived quietly, wrapped in the gentle notes of a song that had always mattered to him, but now seemed to carry the weight of his whole story. He was not the man he used to be. The years had taken their toll. His body moved slower, his breath came shorter, and the endless demands of his life had worn him thin. Yet in certain rare moments the old fire broke through. It was like the sun slipping through a break in the clouds, brief but enough to warm the whole world. That night there was nothing fancy, no flashing lights, no wild stage moves, just him, a piano, a stool, and a song. The one he chose was Unchained Melody. His hands trembled as they touched the keys. His breathing was uneven, almost hesitant, and for a moment the room seemed to hold its breath with him. Then he began to sing. Something happened in that instant. The noise of the world faded. The audience, the cameras, the years of struggle, all of it disappeared. There was only his voice, raw and unpolished, carrying more truth than perfection ever could. His voice cracked here and there, but it was real. Every note carried the weight of his life, the triumphs, the mistakes, the heartbreak, the love for his craft that refused to die. Linda, who knew him better than most, would later recall that moment with a heaviness in her voice. She had seen his strength before, but this was something different. It wasn't strength born of power. It was strength born of vulnerability. Everyone in that room, and later everyone who watched, understood that they had witnessed something rare. This wasn't just a performance. It was the unveiling of a soul. Tony Brown, the pianist who played beside him, saw it too. He compared it to watching a man fight back against the weight of the world, armed only with music. The song seemed to hold a private meaning, something he could never fully explain, and maybe that mystery was part of its power. That night, his singing had an almost defiant edge, as if each note dared the world to underestimate him. It wasn't just a melody, it was a statement. His voice carried both a longing and a promise, and the stage for that brief time felt less like a burden and more like a safe harbor. The beauty of it was in the way it broke all logic. By all reason, he should have been too tired, too drained. Yet there he was, drawing on something deep and unshakable. It wasn't about technique or stamina, it was about the need to give, even if it took the last of his strength. In those final years, every performance was balanced between collapse and brilliance. Some nights the exhaustion won, other nights the magic slipped through, lighting up the stage. When it happened, as it did with Unchained Melody, it reminded everyone that behind the fame and the headlines was a true artist, an artist who loved, who gave, who fought for every note. And perhaps that's what made it so unforgettable, because at that moment he wasn't just a legend on a stage, he was a man, tired, fragile, yet somehow undefeated, proving that even when the body falters, the soul can still rise and sing. But it was not only Linda that saw the dime, many others saw. When the lights dimmed, Priscilla Presley, who had experienced life with him away from the limelight, once shared a thoughtful reflection that was devoid of resentment, but rather filled with a subtle sadness. She had witnessed the reality firsthand, a side of him that was never fully grasped by the public. Her words conveyed a profound sense of grief that only arises from caring deeply for someone and witnessing their gradual decline, not physically, but internally. She acknowledged that there were occasions where it may have been wiser to just call off the performance. As someone who had centered his existence around the theater, this was a significant consideration. It was not meant as disrespect, but rather an expression of love through honesty. Eventually, there reaches a point where enthusiasm is no longer the driving force, when progress feels like a burden and duty propels you forward even after happiness has faded. Famous music critic Nick Kahn looked beyond the glitz, the glam, and the cheering fans. In his perspective, Elvis's final years were not just a downward spiral, they carried a sense of retribution. Every performance felt like a heavy toll on him. The substance abuse, the constant touring, the indulgences were not merely mistakes or weaknesses. They represented a deeper issue, a man tired from playing a role he did not choose. Kahn believed that each show was more about staying alive than creating art, like Elvis was slowly destroying himself without saying a word, burdened by his own legendary status. This tale goes beyond just a voice growing weaker or a body failing. It delves into the gradual unraveling of a man who was obscured by his own larger-than-life reputation. The extravagant attire, the glare of the spotlight, the carefully orchestrated moments, these were all shields he used to maintain the idolized image the world had of him. To his admirers, he was a legend. To those in his inner circle, he was a man teetering on the edge, struggling to carry the weight of expectations placed upon him. Linda Thompson, who had experienced many joyful and affectionate moments with him in the past, expressed the heartbreaking impact of seeing him in such a vulnerable state. Her sorrow did not start on the night the cameras caught him looking fragile, but rather had been building up in the intimate moments where she witnessed the toll it was taking on him. The televised broadcast not only validated her concerns, but also extinguished any remaining hope for things to improve. The person she once knew, vibrant and playful, now appeared drained and disconnected despite being showered with praise. Witnessing a loved one crumble under the weight of unrealistic expectations is not merely heartbreaking, but leaves a lasting impact. The suffering was not exclusive to him, as those closest to him also shared in the burden. Friends, family, and romantic partners who witnessed his sleepless nights, quiet mornings, and tired sighs in between performances. Over time, they observed the man diminish in size while his legend expanded. While the public admired the facade, those who knew him well grieved for the fading individual. Seeing his last show, Linda felt it was more than just the conclusion of his professional life. It marked the clash of past recollections and present truth, where the man she once loved and the man in front of her appeared like unfamiliar beings. It was no more about pursuing a career in music or seeking fame. Instead, the focus shifted to experiencing loss of well-being, loss of tranquility, loss of identity. As a result, an unanswered question lingers. Is it justified? Was the adoration of countless fans worth the gradual decline of the individual underneath? Can any level of applause or praise make up for the sacrifices made? A man was constantly striving to live up to a past version of himself that society held on to. He was generous to the point of exhaustion, leaving nothing for himself. While many remember him as a shining legend, those closest to him recall a different reality. When the spotlight faded, they saw a man burdened by an unattainable dream that eventually became overwhelming. What do you think about Elvis Presley? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.